but it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the...
Good evening and welcome to NUFC Matters with me, Wraith. It's Thursday night, which means it's myself, Supermac, and John Gibson to talk you through the latest developments at Newcastle United. Good evening, gents.
Good evening, Steve. Hiya, John.
Hi, guys.
Wow, to talk about a big news story to kick us off tonight, we have to chuck everything off the agenda and go straight with what's happening at Newcastle United tonight. And the big news is, as some of our eagle-eyed viewers have already noticed, is that Mike Ashley has made a statement. And of course, we know that Mike Ashley very rarely makes statements, but the statements, when he does make them, always have a reason. And the huge news coming out of St James's Park tonight is that the HMRC case, that's Her Majesty's Revenue and Customs case, which of course started 4 years ago when Lee Charnley's doors were kicked in and he was arrested, has been dropped by the HMRC. Completely dropped. A club statement put out a little earlier says HMRC has today given formal confirmation that it is discontinuing the 4-year-long criminal investigation into the tax treatment of agents' players' payments involving Newcastle United Football Club. The most intriguing development today, however, is Mike Ashley's statement, and it's short but sweet. After 4 years of the club being subjected to this investigation, I am pleased that the criminal investigation has now been discontinued. It is now time for the dark forces that are preventing this football club from becoming the powerhouse that the fans deserve to step aside. I told you it was short but sweet. Malcolm, huge news that. And Mike Ashley's comments are even bigger, I think, as far as the takeover is concerned, because Mike Ashley, we know, wants to sell to PIF and the consortium. And so far, he's been denied that opportunity for whatever reason. We're still not clear. We all think we know, but we don't know because nothing has come out. Arbitration, we don't know whether it started, whether it's in the middle, whether it's nearly finished. We have no idea. The fans are completely in the dark. Mike Ashley, though, has parked his tanks on the lawn. It's a thing that we've used time and time again on this show. It looks as if he's about to load the guns up and get ready to fire. And that sounds like the first shot being fired. Dark forces, he's calling the Premier League, Malcolm. Yeah.
I presume it is the Premier League that he's aiming that at. I'm still trying to get my head around it, to be honest. Obviously, there were forces at work that prevented the buyout in the very first place, and I think he's referring perhaps to clubs that were involved who have now shown their true colours and are in, I think, very serious trouble, and they should be very heavily and severely punished. And we know that certainly at least two of those clubs were working against Newcastle, working against the takeover. It was something that they didn't want to see. So I think Mike Ashley is really cocking a snook at the authorities and is saying, right now, let me get on with my business. I want to sell my football club and let the buyers in and let them do what they want to do. John, interesting. John, yeah. What are your thoughts, John?
Well, my initial thoughts was before this all started, the dark forces that stopped Newcastle United, the powerhouse the fans want them to be, I always thought was Mike Ashley, but there again, it obviously isn't. That's flipped. But on this side, we can't see anything but good news because the decks are being cleared one by one. This looks like it could be another brick in the wall towards getting the full wall towards getting the deal through, because there's no question that this 4-year investigation hung heavily over the Newcastle United situation and hung heavily in the minds of the takeover consortium. They didn't know exactly what was going to happen, what the outcome was going to be, but it was doing us no good whatsoever. That has now been cleared. That is a significant move. I believe a significant move towards getting the takeover will be cleared when Newcastle are officially in their Premier League status. I believe they've done that already with the points gap there is, but it's not mathematically correct yet. But I think the 3 at the bottom are dead and will remain dead, and we have the cushion of playing 2 of them the last 2 games of the season. So I think we're going to be safe, more by other people's misdemeanors than our pluses. But if we are safe, and this has been erased, this 4-year look into the situation, and Ashley can turn all his guns onto the Premier League, as there's absolutely no question he will do, we might actually be getting somewhere at long last. It's long overdue. How long's a piece of string, Steve? I don't know if it's going to happen very quickly or going to take a while. These things tend to take an awful long time. This has taken 4 years, but I do believe it's a significant step in the right direction from fans' points of view.
Yeah, amazing turnaround of events that, and it's took 4 years. I mean, some sleepless nights for Lee Charnley and the staff at St James's Park, but completely vindicated. And HMRC have done a thorough investigation by the looks of it and decided that there is nothing to see here, which is a positive for the club and a positive for any new owners coming in, of course, who probably would have ended up having to pay the bill. So it's that's a
cleared
positive.
the whole slate. It's cleared the whole slate, hasn't it, with regards to the club? But I would love to know just on what grounds they went into St James's Park 4 years ago and arrested Charnley.
Yeah,
I would love to know.
It's a tip-off, of course. I'm not sure how how the land lies. I'm sure that if there's some way of getting some compensation for the stress and harassment it's caused, Mike Ashley will be on the case for Lee Charnley in due course, because he won't be a happy chappy. But yeah, interesting. Mike Ashley, again, looking as if he's the hero of the day rather than the villain of the piece, which is becoming a regular thing. I know that a lot of people will never forgive him for the 14 years, but certainly over the last 12 months, he's been consistent. I want to pull up, John, the Chronicle tonight. And, this is another Chronicle story from Steve Bruce's press conference today. Now, you and Malcolm should have copyright on this from the shows that we do around the clubs and the bars and whatever, and the events we do. In comment today, John, about Matt Ritchie, Steve Bruce admits that Matt Ritchie can start a row in an empty house, but insists he's delighted to see the winger back in the team.
Do you know where that comment?
That was the phrase that Malcolm and I.
Yeah,
Malcolm. Yeah, with Terry Ibbott, the comment was always Malcolm's with Terry Ibbott, and that was true. And when I read that comment today, it made me absolutely smile.
Yeah, Joe Harvey
made me absolutely smile.
Yeah. Back in 1971, we were doing pre-season training, and Joe came into the dressing room. And he said, "I've got some news, guys." And he said, "I have just signed Terry Hibbett from Leeds United." And we went, wow. We were seriously impressed with that signing. And he said, "And I've got him for a mere snip at 30 grand. And he started walking towards the door, opened it, was half out, and then he came back in and just turned to all of us and he said, 'Mind, he'd caused trouble in an empty house.'" And he wasn't kidding. He could. He really could. And I think that he would leave Matt Ritchie in his wake. as far as rather than empty out.
Well, what I've deduced from this is that Steve Bruce clearly watches the show. So, good evening, Steve. Well done on the recent run. Last week, okay, you're allowed one blip, but get back on track at the weekend, Bonnie lad, and stop nicking John and Malcolm's phrases for your press conferences.
Yeah.
And by the way, I take great exception to you calling it one blip. We've won 4 matches out the last 25, Steve. So let's not get soft-centered here, pal. This is serious thumbs down time.
Well, let's look back.
The last 25. Arsenal wasn't the blip.
John, let's look back at last weekend's game, because I think the rest of the show is probably going to have a bit of a positive vibe. So yeah, let's look back at the weekend's game. It was atrocious, mate. And Alan Shearer quite rightly pointed out that centre midfield area was a huge problem, and something which we've talked about many, many times on all the shows across the board on NUFC Matters. The lack of effort from John Joe Shelvey. And we actually showed a picture of a seagull on the Three Amigos show last Friday, and we said, is this the John Joe Shelvey of seagulls? And basically it was one seagull flying through the air with another one piggybacking on its back. But yeah, I mean, it was awful, wasn't it? It was a poor performance.
It was absolutely shocking. And what worried me was that it wasn't a one-off. Yes, since Brighton, we've got some tremendous results, by the way, with tremendous help. I mean, West Ham were glorious. They went down to 10 men and gifted us 2 goals. Liverpool were glorious. The front three, they won the championship a year ago, missed every goal that was going, bar Saha's early on, which allowed us to have our dramatic finish. But we went back to what we had been, the worst of what we had been. And our record is 4 wins out of 25. I'm not being negative. I'm just telling the truth. It's 4 wins out of the last 25 games. On the day against Arsenal, I was absolutely infuriated because the whole match was set up for us. As said a couple of weeks back, Steve, when we were going to play Liverpool, I said, let's play the game, not the name. Let's play what's in front of us, the game, and not the name. Let's not get overawed because it's Liverpool and overawed because it's Arsenal. Because Liverpool aren't what they were, Arsenal are certainly not what they were. And a great opportunity was there for us. It was between 2 Europa League semi-finals. Arsenal come to St James's Park 11th in the table. That's beneath halfway. That is shocking for Arsenal of recent years. And what did they do? They put the reserves out. They made 8 changes and put the reserves out. We were go down in 4 minutes. We were inept. We were lacking energy and motivation. We were slow. We were cautious. We were back to being what we had been, and we got cuffed. And it was horrendous. I mean, 2 quick examples, because I don't want to turn tonight to a rant about the Arsenal game, but they had the reserve goalkeeper in Ryan, who was on loan, has never been in an Arsenal side that has won. He is the reserve keeper. In over 90 minutes, he was never tested. We never had a go at the reserve goalkeeper. Jota, the fellow that played left back, who's the hot-headed midfield player who cannot play left back and is a walking yellow card, was yellow carded after 20 minutes and was allowed to play the next 70 without being challenged, where he would have made the mistake and got another yellow card and been sent off without a shadow of doubt. But Jacob Murphy, who could have done that to him, was that busy playing as an orthodox right back, chasing shadows as Martinelli took him to the cleaners, that Murphy never got at their left back in the whole of the game. And we end up losing badly. But I told afterwards, well, we were by Steve Bruce, we were playing a very good team. I said, no, we were not playing a very good team. We were playing a very average team's reserve side in between 2 Europa League games. It was very, very poor. And we've got to change our attitude and our approach when we go to Leicester. If we pay sides too much respect, play the name, we're told every side's a great side. We will be told on the last two games that Sheffield United and Fulham are good sides, even though they're heading to the Championship.
Yeah, more breaking news tonight. Mike Ashley has now filed another court case against the Premier League. The Magpies owner, of course, is already locked in his arbitration battle with the Premier League. He's now, lads, seeking damages, interest and costs from the Premier League. The claim is the same type of case that the Newcastle Consortium Supporters Limited, who've headed down the legal route with Keith Patterson last year with the Premier League. In the court documents, which have just been released, the claim states that the defendant exercised its power to block the proposed takeover when it decided between June and September 2020 that the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia would be a director exercising control over NUFC for the purposes of the rules. In reaching the director decision, the defendant failed to apply the rules in a fair, objective and non-discriminatory fashion and or used its powers under the rules for the improper purpose of promoting its own commercial interests and or the interests of its business associates and or certain of the Premier League members in a manner that was detrimental to competition and consumers. The notes do go on saying, according to the claim, the defendant's conduct in purportedly applying the rules was a decision of an association of undertakings, an agreement between an association of undertakings and or a concerted practice that has as its object or effect the prevention, restriction or distortion of competition on the relevant markets. So big news night tonight for Newcastle United, Malcolm. Another legal case which essentially shows that what Keith Patterson and NCSL were doing all along was another route to go down and the right route to go down.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. If Mike Ashley, if he sells the club just after the last game of the season, can he continue a court action against the Premier League? I presume that he can, but he then has nothing to do with Newcastle United, and the aggrieved party is Newcastle United, is it not? He, as the owner, is suing on its behalf. Mm-hmm.
Interesting times.
Yeah.
Rafa,
I just wonder if he would have to let it drop, but he's taken this action now to ensure that the takeover goes through come the end of the season when Newcastle remain in the Premier.
Yeah, it's interesting times. And Rafa Benitez is live on Sky at 6:30 tonight for some reason. No idea why. You saw it advertised earlier on, so I'm sure our fans.
Spurs job?
Well, I don't know. It's certainly not it's not something that's been announced by anybody else, any other club. I think he's just on being interviewed. What he's been interviewed about, who knows? But it should be interesting to find out. It's not the way that he would be announced if he was taking a football job. So maybe he's just on giving his comments about stuff. But yeah, could be interesting. Mad Mark says Keith Patterson at NCSL has said that he's handed over all legal documents from his case to the Newcastle United legal team. This seems to be the reason why him and Liam couldn't release the story last week, which would make sense. So all the dots are joining, as Liam would say. Malcolm, the Arsenal game, the Malcolm McDonald derby didn't go very well for Newcastle. There was only one team turned up.
Do you know, it? As I was watching the first 15 minutes, I thought, has somebody dropped a Mickey Finn in the pot of tea in the Newcastle dressing room? Because they looked so sluggish and slow, dull-witted, and I thought, what is going on here? And you would think that with the results that they had in the few previous matches, that they would come out there, be alive. They're at St James Park, they're playing at home against a very weakened Arsenal side. You'd think they'd come out flying. and they were all. There wasn't a Newcastle player that ran quicker in the whole 90 minutes than the slowest Arsenal player. I was just absolutely horrified. Even Almiron, he just didn't look in his usual self. You know, he usually goes tearing about all over the place, and I wasn't seeing him do that. And so I thought, what the hell has caused the massive change in the whole side, every individual? And yes, John, you were absolutely right that after 90 minutes, there wasn't a single shot at a reserve goalkeeper. And I went outside in the garden, I screamed. And I was so horrified by it. I really was. Yeah, a neighbour came round and said, "Are you all right?" I said, "No, I'm just watching Newcastle United."
Brilliant.
Of course I'm not all right.
The amazing thing is, Malcolm, as well, an opportunity lost, because if we had got 3 points against Arsenal, which were there for the taking before kickoff, then we would be safe now. And when you have that as the carrot in front of you, wouldn't you think, as you were saying, Malcolm, you would come out hell for leather? I was expecting people to put in calling cards to get about them, to say to the few senior players were there, if you want to play against Villarreal next Thursday, you better keep out of my way, mate. There was no suggestion, there was no aggression from us whatsoever. And as a consequence, a golden opportunity was missed. And what have we to follow? Leicester City away, followed by Manchester City, who are the Premier League champions in waiting, who are in the Champions League final, and who are going for the treble because they've already won the League Cup. They are our next two fixtures when we had an opportunity like we had against Arsenal and didn't take it. But our esteemed leaders seem to think we were just a little bit off today, and Almiron wasn't as good as he used to be, as he has been recently, etc., etc. Goodness gracious me, could we not anticipate that the mood wasn't quite right, or that we didn't go about the game right? Is it the players' fault, or is it the manager's fault, or whose fault is it? Because it isn't the fans' fault, and definitely the way we approached the game, Malcolm, was absolutely atrocious for me. It was sinful because it was there to have a real go at.
Yeah, it really was quite shocking. And surely somebody, one of the coaches or Steve Bruce himself, surely in the dressing room, they would have noticed that the mood was wrong. And if that's the case, you've got to get them really wound up. And everybody came out in such a fashion. And if you remember, I think I'm right in saying that the Arsenal team stood out on the pitch before the game started. And Newcastle United came down the tunnel some 2-3 minutes after Arsenal. You know, now what was that all about? You know, or had things been going on in the dressing room? Had there been a ruck? Had there been a row, or what? I don't know. But the Newcastle side, it just looked so wrong, and it was almost as if nobody could be bothered to try.
Steve Bruce says they're tired, Malcolm. Steve Bruce said today they're tired.
A load of old nonsense. It
says COVID's taken its. The COVID situation has taken its toll, and the squad is very tired.
I see. Yeah, and I think Arsenal had one of their staff was one of the first in football to go down with COVID. and that was the manager. You know,
Quite right. And also, Malcolm, we have played fewer games. I mean, we have played 11 games so far in the last couple of months. We're going to play Leicester, who played 17. Manchester City have played 23. We are tired. I tell you who's tired. The Newcastle United fans are tired of us only winning 4 games in the last 25 games. That's what we're tired of. The team isn't tired. We are tired. And by the way, how can the team be tired? It's changed regularly. It's not as though the same players are playing every game. Wilson come in, hasn't played for a while. San Maximum hasn't played for a while. Almiron hadn't played for a while. We haven't. Dubrovka missed the first half of the season. We're not absolutely exhausted by playing game after. We go out the 2 domestic cups. Malcolm. Straight away. We're not playing in Europe. How the heck are we tired?
Yeah, crazy.
And by the way, may I take up, Steve, something you said very early on, Stephen, when we were discussing or about to discuss the Arsenal match, and you were on about the midfield. The midfield was absolutely unbelievable. Shelvey, let's start with Shelvey. Shelvey is a one-trick pony. He's so slow, his only gear is backwards, and he is a dinosaur. He is a dinosaur in an era where it's all about power and pace, where it's all about getting at teams, being relentless. Off the ball, he's not pedestrian. He's limp along Leslie. He is totally out of date and out of sync with modern day football. Almiron is struggling because he's really a number 10. San Maximum wants to play 10, so he has been just conveniently what hole is left, or will play him a rather deep centre midfield. Not his game at all. He has been put into a straitjacket. Longstaff dipped on against Arsenal when everybody did, but we've got a major midfield problem going to Leicester. Shelvey ought to be out the side, but he's so well thought of by Steve Bruce, his skipper. So is he going to drop his skipper? And you've got the Longstaff situation. You've got Almiron's not working, and you've got a little guy there crying out to say, I must start, and that's Joe Willock. And he must start because he's getting goals and he's a box-to-box player. So somebody's got to go for him. Now, everybody amongst fans would probably vote for Shelvey. It'll end up here, or certainly Longstaff, but probably Almiron. It is an absolute nonsense. You know what? Every time it's the guy that used to stick his finger in the hole in the dam. It's like that with Newcastle. We've got our 2 strikers back. We've got our 2 great strikers back, and Steve Bruce is why we've been struggling is because at the top of the end of the pitch. So, excuse me if I'm wrong, but did we have our best 2 players at the top end of the pitch against Arsenal in Wilson and San Maximum, and it made no difference whatsoever? We're hopeless. Why did it make no difference? Because they never saw the ball, because the midfield didn't provide it. So now he's got a midfield problem. Please solve it, Steve.
I'd solve it. Stick Richie in, John. Stick Richie centre midfield. I've said it for ages.
Yep. But you've got to realise that these lads are tired. Richie didn't play for about a month and a half after his little altercation with Steve Bruce. But he's still tired. Let's be fair, he's still tired.
Yeah, he's still tired. Crazy excuses. Getting his excuses in.
Yeah, it's the most pathetic excuse a manager can make. For me, then, if the players are so tired, then Steve Bruce, what have you and your coaches been doing? Not preparing them well, because footballers are geared to see through a 9-month season, and they don't start getting tired in the 7th or 8th month, for heaven's sake. It's a bad excuse for poor performance.
Yeah, it is 100%, and we've heard too many excuses. Let's be perfectly honest. From this current manager, hopefully we won't have to put up with them for very much longer. Big shout out to our sponsors, skipsandbins.com. Telephone them at 0800 2545 253. Email them at enquiries@skipsandbins.com. Websites www.skipsandbins.com. Easy contract, free and pay as you go, waste collection. And we could probably play him up front, lads, on Saturday and on Friday night, at Leicester. Canny little character. And big shout out to Spider VPN for your internet security. qtechshop.co.uk. Makers of pool tables and snooker tables in Walls and Newcastle. And a Jab Signature. The guys who make the boxing gear and supplies it to our fighters. Subscribe to the channel. Hit Newcastle Legends logo. Hit the thumb up to like the video. Click the share button to share to your social media. And join the comment section as well. Plenty of like-minded Newcastle fans in there. Sorry, Malcolm. Yeah, that little B thing. It's
no. I thought you were referring to the skip.
Oh, well, to be honest, we could probably put quite a few people in there, couldn't we?
I'm watching the skip very carefully, and it's moving quicker than 8 Newcastle players did against Arsenal.
Brilliant stuff. Great
the
stuff.
Interesting thing as well, Malcolm, when it says skips and bins, does it mean you should put the skipper in the bin? Because that's John Joe Shelby, of course.
Of course, yeah. Good one. Good play on words there.
Very good, John.
Let's talk a little bit about more breaking news from Newcastle tonight. But this was a little bit earlier, of course, and it's the fact that we are going to have fans in for the Sheffield United game.
Yeah.
And they've finally, after a little bit of and ahhing, they finally come back and said that it's going to be a ballot system at St James's Park. So Wednesday, the 19th of May is the game, 6:00 kickoff, and essentially, season ticket holders will be entered into a ballot. Now, to be entered into the ballot, it's specific tickets. So this is the way it works, just for those of you who don't know. Eligible supporters are those with season tickets on long-term price freeze deals, as well as supporters who held a valid season ticket at the end of the 2019-2020 season and continue to have account credit outstanding. To ensure fairness, this process will start with a ballot, which opens at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, and the ballot closes on Sunday, the 9th of May. So that gives everybody 48 hours to apply. And then Newcastle United will contact those successful in the ballot on Tuesday, the 11th of May. You will get an email. So if you don't get an email from the club, then you won't have a chance to be entered into the ballot. So keep checking your inbox, check your spam mail, for God's sake, because the way that some of these things operate, technically you might just, you might not realise you've had the email. So always check your spam and then obviously follow the instructions, enter yourself into the ballot, and good luck, everybody. Hopefully,
And yes, I was just going to follow that up, because much earlier in the programme, there was a text. I don't know who it was from, but it was a good one, and it said that there are going to be 10,000 tickets for Newcastle fans for the Sheffield United game at St James Park. How about giving 1,000 to the NHS on Tyneside? And I know that Newcastle fans are desperate to get there, but I think that we all owe the NHS a huge amount, and it would be a lovely gesture.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully the club will have some kind of thought on that process. You know what I mean? Some idea to do that. It'll be interesting to see. I'm sure the club, if they have decided to do that, will make some kind of announcement. So fingers crossed. Good shout.
Yeah, but sort of maybe 100, 200 tickets, and give the NHS a nice little section and say, enjoy the game. Thanks for all you've done.
Chris Collins says, "Come on, Malcolm, the NHS has suffered enough."
I got to say two things.
That is good,
Things here,
Chris.
Steve. two things here, and I like that. Can Newcastle United in the ballot find 10,000 fans who adore Steve Bruce and his coaching side, so that the atmosphere is perfect during the game, and 10,000 people aren't having to go if the game goes sadly wrong, because they would possibly want to do that. And I'm hoping, if in giving the NHS, and I'm all for that, huge, here's some tickets, I would suggest that a lot of NHS people as well will be Newcastle United supporters, so they will love going, is several, because they will be supporters of Newcastle United by choice, isn't most people in this area? But it's going to be interesting, because it would be rather farcical if we're playing Sheffield United and it's 0-0 after 65 minutes and Sheffield United are down, and 100 people in one corner of the ground start chanting against the manager. It would be a rather unique atmosphere, wouldn't it? I'm not suggesting to add that I want that to happen, but it's a great possibility. And as you've all said, isn't it taking fun a bit further with our black sense of humour, which Geordies have got to have supporting Newcastle United? Isn't it a wonderful game to see? You can come back into St James's Park and watch Newcastle United, who have just avoided relegation, play a team that's actually going down. So I mean, there's a wonderful spectacle for us all to look forward to in the next couple of weeks. But it may well be, boys, if we don't get the any points against Leicester and Man City, that we need something against Sheffield United. I don't think so, because I think the three at the bottom are heading only in one direction, and it's not up the street; it's down the street into the Championship. But interesting, and being serious for a moment, lovely to know fans are going to come back into the ground, because my Jove, St James's Park is the most wonderful place on earth. The cathedral on the hill, when it is full of the devoted who belong because of their love for the club, not because of the prawn sandwich brigade in Newcastle are winning things. Won't it be lovely to see people back in there and back enjoying our game and our team? That's terrific.
Just a thought, John. Do you think Steve Bruce is looking forward to fans being back in the stadium?
Lovely. Actually, it's funny you should say that, Malcolm, because he spent all the time this season when they're not in saying we desperately need them back in, which is very easy to say when you know for certain it ain't going to happen. Now, right now, if Newcastle, and heaven forbid, because I'm still a fan who wants to see them win, not lose, but if we lose against Leicester and against Manchester City, and then we play Sheffield United and there's 10,000 in there, I don't think Bruce will want to go to bed the night before the game and, with a cup of Horlicks and have sweet dreams. I don't think it'll be quite as simple as that.
Yeah, I would agree. The Black and White Knight says, "I'm not going. They never came to see me when I was bad." I'm referring to Newcastle, of course. John, I tell you what you could do before next week. It'll be interesting to see how many press passes the Chronicle get, because, Liam Kennedy, of course, does the show on Tuesday nights, and they've been told, the Shields Gazette, that there's only one pass per newspaper.
Yeah, I would suspect, especially perhaps, as some people in the Crown might get a pass. I've got an awful feeling, and I don't know why I've got the feeling that I won't get a pass. It's just a rare old feeling I've got that perhaps I would be best to be kept out of the ground. It will be interesting to see who's allowed, and very interested to see as well, quite seriously, the reaction of the fans. I think at the start of the game, being serious for a moment, Newcastle fans will revert to nature and they'll get behind the team because it's our team and because they're our players and because they don't blame the players first and foremost. They blame Mike Ashley and they blame Steve Bruce. They will be behind their team. But if their team play at home like they played at home in the last game against Arsenal, I wonder how long that'll last.
Yeah, I would say so. I just want to say as well, congratulations, and I know you guys you'll join me in this too. Hebburn Town. What a game that was at the weekend, guys. Hebburn against Concert. And once again, what a wonderful advert, Malcolm, for Northern League football. We've said it time and time again in the Vars final. Dunstan's been there. We've had North Shields been there in recent years. Whitley Bay, Whitley Bay, of course, went on a treble run. I think won it 3 years in a row. But I was delighted for Vin Pearson. Vin's been involved with that football club for years. And to see the delight on his face and having his moment on the pitch at Wembley. I felt for Frank Bell at Concert, of course. The Northern League is something I love. And it was just a great advert for football. 3-2 to Hebburn. They were the victors on the day.
Yeah. It was absolutely marvellous. And they must have found it very strange being in a Wembley Stadium totally empty. It's a great place to be when there's a crowd and an atmosphere, but nevertheless, they certainly dished up a terrific game of football, and it was in the balance all the way through. Well done to both clubs, and the Northeast has and the Northern League in particular, it sort of bosses this particular competition. And I think those down south are getting a bit fed up with it, but nevertheless, it was absolutely terrific to see.
Yeah, it was, John.
If I can add a little bit, Steve, having been in non-league football myself with Gateshead for 11 years, I watched that game on television. And it was a wonderful, wonderful advert for the Northern League and for Northeast football and FA Vars itself. I was lucky enough 6 years ago when North Shields won the Vars. Malcolm kindly invited me down to Wembley, and I sat in Wembley Stadium, the Royal Box, next to Malcolm for the game with North Shields. I didn't know that my little grandson, Charlie, was going to be born that afternoon, but he was literally born in London while I was sitting in Wembley with Malcolm watching No Shields run. I'm a granddad with Charlie, and I'm down tomorrow for Charlie's birthday, his 6th birthday. So it all tied in with the reminiscences of the day that I had with Malcolm down at Wembley in the Vars. Happy memories, happy memories. I'm so proud of what the Northeast, and that means the Northern League, have done at Vars level. And as Malcolm says, there's people in the FA and those down south that are mighty sick at the Northern League dominating this competition. And I feel would love to see that all end. When you get two teams to the final, it looks as if it's not going to end anytime soon. But congratulations to Hebburn. They were superb. Their second was wonderful. But Concert, you can all hold your heads up high for the performance you twice led, and you made it one of the epic finals that there's been for an awful long time. It was absolutely terrific. Loved every minute of it.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, well done, Concert, as well as the Hebburn side.
Yeah, just quickly want to point this out. Newcastle United, behind the scenes, whoever is in charge of the website and stuff and the shops and stuff makes some right humdingers over the course of the last 14 years. This is the best one yet. This was on the shop window. The shop is closed now at St James's Park, lads. This store will be closing in April 2021. Please shop online at nufc.com. NUFC.com, lads, is the official. Isn't the official website? It's the fans. It's the fans'
website, isn't it?
That's right. It's Nile, isn't it?
Yeah.
Absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Oh my word!
Great advertisement for Biffer and the lads at NUFC.com anyway. And
yes, absolutely.
They've stuck that on their page. A lot of people asking about the Three Amigos. Yes, we'll be down at Biker Grove tomorrow night, 5:30 until 7:30. Join me, Steve Hasty, Neil Mitchell, and of course NCL's Keith Patterson. And what a night to have Keith on. Keith will be telling us, obviously, the full ins and outs of what's happening with this legal action and why the club have decided to take it on. Great news, though, from our perspective, and hopefully just another piece in that takeover jigsaw. And, of course, we will be back to do Match Day Live tomorrow night. Leicester City take on Newcastle United, and that game is an 8 o'clock kickoff at the King Power Stadium, and it's live on Sky Sports. This will be, bizarrely, the 50th senior competitive game in all competitions that Newcastle have played behind closed doors since June 2020. Lascelles, Hayden, Darlow, Fraser, all out still. Joe Willock, as we've already discussed briefly tonight, is available after missing out against Arsenal last week. Of course, he couldn't play because he's Arsenal's player. Fabian Shaw did appeal against the sending off, but that was knocked back. So he starts a 3-match ban and won't be available now until we play Fulham. As for Leicester City, Harvey Barnes, James Justin and Wes Morgan are all injured. Ayoze Perez, of course, is still at Leicester. He's only started one of Leicester's last 5 Premier League games. He might get a chance, you might feel, against Newcastle on Friday night, but we'll wait and see. Referee for tomorrow night's game is Darren England. This is his 3rd game as in charge of Newcastle United's fixtures. He refereed the the West Brom game and the Crystal Palace game. Did the Doncaster referee, and VAR is Paul Tierney. So Malcolm, Leicester City. Got to be honest, when we looked at this game, I don't think anybody expected us to get anything when we were predicting results a few weeks ago. My attitude hasn't changed on this. I don't think we're going to come off well. I think it's a damage limitation job. He's gone. He's gone, yeah.
He's gone to see the dog, so you better come to me while we wait for him, pal.
Yeah, go on then, John. Over to you.
Yeah. Mate. Well, first and foremost, when I look at the whole thing, Steve, it's with envy because I wish we were Leicester City, and it's with annoyance because I think we could easily be Leicester City. If you look at what Leicester City are and what they've become very recently, 5 years ago they produced the greatest fairy tale this country's seen when they won the Premier League title. That was only 5 years ago. Now, that could have easily just been a one-off, but nowhere near a one-off. They are currently 3rd top of the Premier League and in the first FA Cup final for 52 years. And why is that the case? Because we've got an owner who has been cash conscious, he has been stifling, he has been unambitious, and they were taken over by a Thai consortium that have been nothing but good for the club and wanted the best for the club. And when you think where Leicester started from, I mean, in 2004 they went down and they spent the next 10 seasons, Steve, out of top-class football. They were in the Championship for 9 of those seasons and in the old 3rd division division for one season. So they started from a much lower benchmark than we have, but have risen to where they are now. And that could easily have been us with a different owner who would then have produced a consistent management situation. They could well have been us. And it's an awful condemnation of what has happened at Newcastle United when you're about to face Leicester that have done all that. Having said all that, and they are third top and they've got terrific players and they're heading only in one direction, ironically, we're playing them away from home, and that's good news because their home record, they lose games. They've lost 7. They either win or lose. They don't draw. They either win or lose. Their home record is 9 wins, 1 draw, 7 defeats. Their away record's 10 wins, 4 draws, and only 2 defeats. So we're playing them at their place, and they're vulnerable. They've lost 7 games. Now, will we be good enough to take advantage of that? I certainly wouldn't put a bent farthing on that happening. Not a cat's chance. But it is true that that is the way they are. The difference is they've got strikers who actually score goals. If you remember, Jamie Vardy, when they won the title 5 years ago, was sensational. Scored a barrel load of goals. He's still tasty today. But Iheanacho, the kid that come in that was at Manchester City that had a bad time when he first went to Leicester, he's got 17 goals plus 6 assists this season. That makes him this country's best maker and taker of goals, even better than Harry Kane's record of goals and assists. He's got 12 in his last 10 games. The big difference is huge finishes and a midfield that gets the ball up to them quick on the break. And we have a midfield that's ponderous. So it's a tough ask. And I'm not too hopeful, my friend. As you said yourself, Steve, I'm not too hopeful.
No, me neither. Prediction, John, I'm probably going to go for 3-0 to Leicester.
Yeah, my only hope is that home record of 9-1-7, the fact that they played Southampton the last time out and couldn't beat 10 men, drew with them. Because you're always clinging to any flotsam that happens to be passing when you support Newcastle United and hoping something will happen. But no, I don't believe it will. Perhaps I've got slightly more belief than you because I'm only going for 2-0. But I can't see Newcastle winning this one. They will just try to hold out. One of the reasons is we're so pedantic. We're so slow in build-up, and you've got to be quicker. You've got to be more aggressive. You've got to ping the ball about. We don't do that. You could throw us the ball, and you'd have time to get 2 banks of 4 in front of us, and there'd be no way through. No, I don't hold out much hope. But then again, I'll be much relieved when we've lost there to realise it's going to be so easy in the next game when we're only going to play Manchester City. So that will be some consolation.
Got to ask you, John, about the protest at the weekend from Manchester United supporters. Something we've never really seen, for a long time. Action like that,
Yep.
and not just action where you're standing outside the ground, but actually breaking into the ground and commandeering the stadium. I mean, they were away down the tunnel, they were in the dressing rooms, they were in the corporate areas. What did you think about that?
It's a great question because there's 2 obvious tacks you take on this. First of all, I fully understand Manchester United fans being furious with the Glazers because it is, from their point of view, everybody said this is the Super League reaction and annoyance to the Super League. That was just the trigger. That's not what Manchester United were about. They hate the Glazers in the way that we dislike Mike Ashley. They believe they've got huge owners of the club that are running it into the ground. They just want to take money out of the club, and they believe there's no love from the Glazers. It's all about lolly. And I do understand their absolute frustration with the way their club's been run, because we have a similar frustration up here. However, having said all of that, you cannot, under any circumstances, condone breaking into the ground, smashing windows and everything else within the stadium, getting into the dressing rooms and getting a game called off. This sadness is that a few hundred fans who went far too far and become little more than thugs spoiled it for the thousands upon thousands of loyal fans who actually didn't take part or just wanted a peaceful demonstration outside. It is a shame what happened inside the ground. That cannot be condoned. But Manchester United fans are as angry at the Glazers, and have been for as long a time as we've been angry at Ashley. But you can't condone stepping over that line. That is the one part of it that really was a sadness and let down a great club and their fans.
Yeah, one other bit of Newcastle news this week, John, before we're finished. Now, I'll ask you this, just in case Malcolm does happen to get back on, just so we can get his prediction. If not, we will see him next week. But Gennaro Gattuso, the Napoli head coach, has been linked with Newcastle this week. And there was a question earlier from somebody in the chat about what we thought about that. I mean, we always come into the silly season, don't we, when we get into May, June, July, where we get linked with players, and of course we're going to get linked with coaches and managers as well, because whether the takeover goes through or not, people are going to be expecting some kind of action with Steve Bruce. What was your take on Gattuso being linked, and is that somebody you would like to see at St James's Park?
Well, I think there's no hope and Bob hope of it actually happening. I don't know whether Mike Ashley will know who Gattuso is. I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think Mike Ashley is looking to change the manager whatsoever, because we will be safe this season. That is what Mike Ashley wants. That was his criteria to Steve Bruce. Just keep us up. Steve Bruce will say, I've done that for you. I don't think that will change for the start of next season if Mike Ashley's in charge. I think the only way the manager will change will be with new owners who will definitely go for somebody. And it won't be anybody that's been linked with us now, because it'll be the ideas of a new owner. So as far as Gattuso is concerned, completely forget it. That ain't going to happen. It ain't going to happen under Ashley, and a new owner will have his own ideas. So no, don't expect that to happen anytime soon. But we do need this situation, Steve, and you, I'm certain, are the same as me, solved so quickly it's untrue. Can we afford to waste the summer transfer window, the start of next season, by just trundling on the way it's been for the last 12 months, the way it's been for the last 24 months? No, we can't. We've got to get about it and get this club sorted.
Yeah, wise words as always from John. Malcolm sadly is obviously taking Billy out for a walk. I'm back tomorrow night, 5:30, with, as I've already mentioned, Keith Patterson from NCSL. He'll be joining me, Steve Hasty and Neil Mitchell, the three amigos, 5:30 tomorrow night. And then straight after that, 7:30 until close of play, the Matchday Live squad, hosted by Holly Blades. We will start at 7:30 tomorrow night. Looking forward to it. Regardless of that, always enjoy the company and always enjoy the chat. John, likewise with you, sir. Great to have you back on sparkling form as always, and look forward to seeing you next Thursday, my good friend.
God bless you, Steve. Thanks a lot. Take care, guys.
Take care, mate. God bless.
Bye-bye.
critics attack. It feels like I've been talking to myself again. But it's the only way